Good day, you're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Danie, Laurel.
And I'm Delos Santos. Here are today's top stories. With OFWs likely taking advantage of the peso's depreciation versus the dollar, cash remittances grew more than most economists expected in August.
The Agriculture Department asks sugar importers to sell a portion of their allocation at 70 pesos per kilo.
With 2 more months before 2022 ends, the Tourism Department says it has already achieved its full-year target for foreign arrivals.
And bad debt held by credit card issuers continue to ease. We begin our broadcast with remittances jumping year-on-year in the month of August. That's as overseas Filipino workers likely took advantage of the peso's weakness versus the dollar. Now, data from the Bangko Sentral show that cash remittances coursed through banks reached $2.72 billion in August. That's expanding by more than 4% on a year-on-year basis. The growth in remittances was also the fastest since the month of June and also higher than estimates by most economists. Estimates from a Bloomberg poll of 9 analysts range from 1% to 4%. The BSP says the expansion in remittances was due to the growth in receipts from both land-based and sea-based workers. China Bank Chief Economist Dominique Velasquez says OFWs may have sent more money to their families as domestic prices remained high and as the peso continued to weaken against the dollar. Economists expect remittances to stay positive in the remaining months of 2022.
Now, heads up, motorist oil companies are implementing a new round of price hikes. Effective today, October 18, prices of gasoline will see an 80 centavo increase per liter. Diesel, on the other hand, will be pricier by 2 pesos and 70 centavos per liter, while kerosene prices are up by 2 pesos and 90 centavos. This is the second week oil companies have jacked up prices since the OPEC Plus announced a looming cut in its oil production. With fuel prices seen to push further upward in the coming weeks, transport group Pasang Mazda has filed a petition for a surge fee for jeepneys. The surge fee seeks to impose an additional 1 peso fare for jeepneys during heavy traffic hours to make up for fuel consumed.
Mag-file din tayo ng tinatawag ng surcharge na ang ginagawa ng DMPS. Since yan ay rush hour, nagkakos ng traffic, mag-charge tayo ng additional na 1 peso. Malapit at malayo at para naman makaagwanta ang ating mga driver.
The Agriculture Department and the Sugar Regulatory Administration have asked sugar importers to commit 10% of their allocation to be sold through the agency at 70 pesos per kilo. The SRA says this initiative is a temporary measure that will assure ample supply of affordable sugar while they await local sugar mills to be in full swing. Meanwhile, the DA says it will start selling sugar at 70 pesos per kilo in SRA offices in Quezon City and Bacolod. Kadiwa Rolling Stores and Kadiwa on Wheels will also be selling sugar at the same price to ensure that the commodity remains affordable and accessible to consumers. The DA also has earlier said that it has been coordinating with the SRA for the implementation of a suggested retail price on refined sugar. How does this move to sell sugar in Kadiwa stores at lower prices sit with retailers who are still forced to sell sugar at very high prices? Let's get answers from Stephen Kua, President of the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association, or PAG-ASA. Stephen, good day again. How much does sugar retail now? I mean, last time we talked, you mentioned that it's still above the 100 peso mark, but the SRA a few days back said that actually that hit a fresh all-time high of even 134 pesos per kilo. What are you monitoring in your member stores?
Prices are still the same from end of August. So it's still 100 plus per kilo for white refined.
Okay, now sir, the DA is of course intending to sell sugar in Kadiwa stores that's at 70 pesos per kilo as just reported. Will this be impacting the retailers who still need to be selling sugar at those prices you mentioned?
Yes, it will, because it's gonna mar the prices for white refined. There will still be stock floating around at 100 plus per kilo, And then there will be items sold, different brands, no, sold at 70 a kilo, no. So if even if a supermarket buys from these suppliers who allow supermarkets to sell at 70 a kilo, they will still have stocks which are selling at 100 plus, no? So maghahalo-halo yan, no? So medyo magulo ng konti, no? May transition, so that's understood.
But given that, how are you expected to cope as well? Kung matuloy itong 70 pesos per kilo, what adjustments do you think will your member stores be implementing?
They probably won't be selling white, refined, washed and brown sugar, no? Kasi 70 a kilo for white will be cheaper than brown or washed sugar, no? So it's gonna be funny, but this is what you call intervention within the economy, no? Again, it's in transition lang, I guess. Yeah.
But at the same time, you have the DA also saying a few days back that they are now planning to set an amenable suggested retail price for sugar. What's your take on this, and what for you would be an amenable price point?
Well, 70 seems logical, no? DTI was trying to peg it at 50 for the last few years, no? But you don't come across white refined at 50 a kilo, no? So 70 looks more realistic, but again, is it sustainable? No, they should be able to sustain it so that it doesn't go up and down just like fuel prices. No?
All right. Sir, now talking about the peso depreciation and how that's impacting the prices of imported goods, give us a better nuance on that. To what extent have these been more expensive, and is there a benefit for domestically produced goods because of the peso depreciation?
I've been looking at how wage earners are, supposed to be spending their hard-earned money, hard-earned cash, no? And it seems that mga karinderya, eateries, no? Even ulam has gone up by 40%.
Grabe.
No? Yeah, and even basahan, those round, cloth things that you use for basahan, have gone up by 32%.
Wow.
So I was surprised that, yes, all these items which we take for granted, no? Prices have been, going up. So it's going to add up to your, spending, no, for the month, lalo na for the wage earners. And yeah, pamasahe, you just heard that they're planning to increase, which is a cycle. Now, of course, workers will ask for more pay, and then prices will go up again. So it's got to stop somewhere. No, government has to come in and make sure that the economic conditions are favorable for manufacturers and services not to increase. No, there will be no need to increase prices just to cover costs.
Sir,
of operation.
Sir, since President BBM, of course, took the helm as Agri-Chief, are you seeing market improvements in the production of agricultural goods and consequently, perhaps, either a lowering of prices or at least stemming the inflation of some local produce?
I think it's a bit too soon, no? I mean, law of the farm, no? So it says that you cannot plant a seed and, immediately harvest tomorrow, no? So it's a bit too soon. I've been asking about prices of vegetables. They've been going up and down. Again, it's based on weather more than the harvest, no? It's based on logistics, traffic, no? It's based on these things and not just the volume of produce that's in the market.
Okay. Now, earlier we reported about remittances growing. Do you see, as the peso weakens, of course, do you see that being reflected on the ground? How so far would you assess consumer behavior?
Well, I'm hoping that remittances by OFWs, no, would redound to more purchasing power for the families, no, the beneficiaries, no, and it'll hopefully make money go round, no, the supply of money, and since it's going to be more pesos per dollar, I'm hoping that they will be able to utilize this not just for consumption, but also for investments and savings, no, and so that the economy can. The medium term and the long term will look good, no? And not just what's immediately needed. Yeah.
What's the Christmas season looking like?
Difficult to tell, but of course, given the Filipino spirit for Christmas, Christmas spirit in the Filipino, I'm sure it's still gonna be a jolly Christmas.
But is it going to be an expensive Noche Buena?
Well, you just have it's going to be a creative Christmas. Because some consumers have to be creative, no? To enjoy the season, no? And not just maraming handa, no. It's the quality of the, maybe a bit, the standard should be a bit lower, but you still have the same, gatherings, no? And now that COVID-19 is just a bit easing off, I think it's gonna be a more jolly Christmas and happier Christmas, because people will be able to get together even if there's not as much food as they used to enjoy. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the resilient spirit of the Filipino, sir. And hopefully we all get through this difficult inflation situation together. Maraming salamat po, Stephen Kua, President of the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jess.
Now let's pause for a quick break, but coming right up after that. The Tourism Department touts that it has already achieved its target of 1.7 million foreign tourist arrivals for 2022.
More of that and other stories when Business World Live returns. Stay with us.
You're still watching Business World Live here on One News. I'm Jess Delos Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel.
The Department of Tourism reveals it has reached its target of 1.7 million visitors for the year 2022. During the Philippine Tourism Convergence Reception event, DOT Secretary Cristina Frasco says the country has so far recorded 1.77 million foreign tourist arrivals. This after the Philippines reopened its border to international tourists last February. President Bongbong Marcos, who graced the event, highlighted the importance of tourism in buoying the country's economy.
It became very clear from the very beginning that as we transform our economy, one of the possible and high potential drivers for the transformation for the economy was tourism. We develop and that we make sure that these beautiful places, number one, have the people to run them, the staff to run them.
However, just as the tourism sector is making a comeback after the pandemic, the recession projected by the IMF poses a new threat. In an interview with Business World Live, the Tourism Congress of the Philippines says a global slowdown may discourage people from traveling abroad.
The global recession, if and when it happens, we will definitely play a role as far as travel patterns are concerned. people will opt to go to closer places, may not travel as far as they used to. It will definitely affect as far as where people go, but we're pretty confident that people now still want to travel, even if to nearby places.
The United States vows to lend the Philippines a hand in its efforts to fully recover from the pandemic. U.S. Ambassador Mary Kay Carlson says the Philippines can count on the U.S. for continued support and assistance amid the global economic crisis. The U.S. made the assurance just as the IMF warned of a looming recession in 2023. Ambassador Carlson says the U.S. will continue to hold development assistance programs for the Philippines.
You can count on the United States to continue to be a committed partner for the Philippines on the whole array of economic challenges that we all face globally as we emerge from the acute phase of the pandemic.
The Contact Center Association of the Philippines is confident that it will hit its 9 to 11% revenue growth target this year, citing stronger demand for voice and back-office business processing. CCAP says they are hoping that these growth drivers will allow them to reach over $30 billion worth of revenues this year. In 2021, CCAP members reported a 9% increase in revenue to $24.6 billion. This means the group accounted for the bulk of the $29.5 billion worth of revenues generated by the country's entire IT BPO sector.
Now, the Bangko Sentral reports that bad loans of credit card issuers continued to ease in July. That's despite strong growth in receivables. Soured loans of credit card issuers improved to 5.7% in end July after peaking at 10.1% during the height of COVID-19 lockdowns in November of 2020. This despite the industry reporting a double-digit growth in credit card receivables this year, hitting 20.4% in July. BSP Governor Felipe Medalla praised the credit card industry for growing its portfolio in a prudent manner despite challenges in the operating environment. He also said that the latest non-performing loan ratio is now close to pre-pandemic levels.
And those are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate front today. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danie Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time. But don't go away. We'll give you the latest on the local bourse when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us.
And we're still watching Business World live here on One News. Now, Dan, we did see Asia slumping yesterday, but despite that, we bucked that trend. Are we still on that track?
And you can see that right here, just above 6,000 levels finally. And if you had invested 3 days ago, you would have already earned 2.5%. And this is, of course, like you mentioned, after 5 straight days of gains, bucking that entire sell-off, even the S&P 500, all over Asia, and hopefully ending the day with some gains here. This, of course, on the back of remittances higher than expected. 3% was the median estimate, 4.3%. So those OFWs still bringing, in some money here. And you can see that the some of the best performers here are Mega World, which is a property player, benefits a lot from more, remittances from offshore. That's up by 3.5%. Ayala Land as well, up by 2%. So these things that, of course, benefit from that, both property and consumption as well. Hopefully, just a few players here that have sat out this rally, at least today. San Miguel continuing to be down by 1 2/10%, Jess.
But then the telco space might be worth looking into, especially with reports of a probable new player on the block when it comes to internet.
Exactly. All right. And guess who? That will be one of Macro Asia's, at least according to reports, Jess, unit here called Tera. So, terabyte, gigabyte, terabyte. And let's take a quick peek at Macro Asia. It's 4 pesos and 58. That's up by 2.5% already. They will looking at being a big internet provider as well. Let's take a quick peek at how the others are reacting to this. Well, everyone enjoying the rest of the bourse here in terms of some gains. And still on the telco space, PLDT said to be weighing 2,000 towers for sale. That should be worth around $300 million. If that does happen, this would be the third round of asset sales. Recall that they already, divested and leased back some of their towers, half of their towers actually, and Globe just recently sold as well to Macquarie and KKR. And still on the MVP group, you've also got MPIC, which is, of course, related sort of parent company, but more on the infra space. They said that they are on track to hitting their 2022 core target income. This happens after the first half of 2022 core net income rose by 24% to 7.5 billion pesos. So one to watch out for here as the third quarter earnings begin trickling in, Jess.
And lastly, of course, we cannot not look at the peso. So how is the local currency doing?
Well, let's pull that out for our viewers here. Strengthening a touch. So, okay, not yet breaking 60. The suspense is still there on whether, we will be weakening above that. But again, strong remittance sprint. Pushing our currency into hopefully stronger territory. 58.985 to the greenback.
And that's it for today, October 18, 2022. Join us again tomorrow at exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess Delos Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. Stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.